My name is Amelia, a 57-year-old widow living alone in a spacious house. A few years back, after losing my husband, I considered moving in with my son Amir and his wife Gianna. However, I soon realized that living together might not be ideal. We have had a strained relationship for some time, and given their bustling gastro lounge business owners, my involvement could be more of a burden than a help. Despite my lack of agility and customer service skills, living separately seemed the wiser choice. After my husband's death, Amir never proposed we live together, which I silently appreciated. It allowed me the freedom from caregiving and parenting that I had longed for. Yet, living alone proved lonelier than expected. Without hobbies or close friends, my life previously revolving solely around domestic and caregiving duties, I found my days filled with nothing more than TV drama reruns. It was during this time of solitude that the visits from my granddaughters became the highlights of my life. Stella, the eldest at 8, was effortlessly charming and poised, while 6-year-old Ellie was more reserved and often overshadowed by her sister's flair. Despite both girls being endearing, I felt a special kinship with Ellie, who seemed neglected by her parents and sister. Every couple of months, Amir and Gianna would bring the girls over. Stella would greet me with a bright smile, dressed in new clothes and her hair neatly styled. Meanwhile, Ellie would hang back, her presence less pronounced but equally important to me. One particular visit changed everything. Upon their arrival, I noticed Ellie's cheek marked by a redness, hinting at more than just a simple mishap. It was clear she was in distress, and as I saw my son and daughter-in-law dismiss her pain, something within me snapped. Unable to bear the thought of Ellie suffering further, I made a decision that would alter the course of our lives. I would take Ellie under my wing and raise her myself. Years later, after returning from an extended stay overseas, Amir and Gianna unexpectedly appeared, expressing a desire to reconnect and live as a family. But their words rang hollow after years of indifference. Family isn't just about blood, I told them firmly. Please, go back. Our life continued, with Ellie blossoming into a confident young woman under my care. Despite the challenges, choosing to stand by Ellie was a decision I never regretted, proving that sometimes, separating from one's roots can lead to unexpected new growth. In contrast to her sister Stella, who was always dressed in fresh, neat clothes, Ellie often wore her older sister's faded hand-me-downs. Her hair was usually unkempt and wild. Although Ellie was naturally talkative and loved to engage in conversations from the moment she began to speak, I noticed a change in her demeanor over time. She had become quieter, and instead of Stella's radiant smile, Ellie's expression was often somber and downcast. During their visits, after greeting Stella cheerily, I would kneel to meet Ellie at eye level and welcome her warmly. Ellie dear, it's so wonderful to see you. I've prepared some of your favorite treats today. Let's enjoy them together. Ellie's response was hesitant. Grandma. What about my sweets? Of course, I have yours too. Let's go, I reassured her as we walked hand in hand. As Amir and Gianna exited the car, they called out their greetings and presented me with a souvenir. Thank you, I replied. Have you both been well? Please, make yourselves at home. While I welcomed everyone inside and served tea and sweets, I noticed Amir and Gianna focused their attention solely on Stella, largely ignoring Ellie. Any attempt I made to engage Ellie was often interrupted by Stella, or Amir and Gianna would shift the conversation elsewhere. I was troubled by their disregard for Ellie but chose to observe rather than intervene directly, a decision I would come to regret. On a later visit to Amir and Gianna's home, I brought sweets for everyone, hoping for a pleasant family gathering. As I reached out to ring the doorbell, I heard Amir's voice raised in anger from inside. Why don't you say something instead of just being quiet? Shocked, I entered the house without hesitation. The voices grew louder as I approached the stairs. You know it's because you don't talk at school that I'm embarrassed, right? Amir shouted. As I ascended, a sharp, distressing sound echoed from above. Pushing the door open, I found a tense scene unfolding. Ellie sat on the floor, her cheeks wet with tears, holding her face as if she'd been struck. Stella, looking pained, was shaking her hand as if she'd just hit her sister. Amir and Gianna scolded harshly. Hey Ellie, you got smacked by your sister, didn't you? How about saying it hurts? If you can't speak up, you're no longer family. Get out. We'll send you to the hag's home. Appalled, I confronted them. What on earth are you doing? This moment crystallized my resolve. It was clear that Ellie needed a sanctuary away from such toxicity. Deciding to take her under my care permanently, I knew we faced a challenging journey ahead, but one that I hoped would lead to healing and a brighter future for her, free from the unfair comparisons and neglect she had endured. Pushing past my son and his wife, I moved to Ellie's side, who was sitting on the floor, visibly distressed. I shielded her from their stares, my actions catching them off guard, though they quickly composed themselves. Mom, what are you doing barging in like that? You should have rung the doorbell first, Amir protested. That's right, Amelia. Aren't you being rude? Added Gianna. What's truly rude is what you're doing here, ganging up and scolding a little girl, I retorted. Amir, aren't you a father? Aren't you ashamed of mistreating your child? And Stella, why did you hit your sister? It was the first time I had raised my voice at Stella. She looked frightened for a moment, then lowered her head and mumbled, because. Gianna quickly pulled Stella to her side, hugging her and shooting me a glare. Please, don't blame Stella. I stared back, unwavering. Protecting Stella after she hit her sister is not the right way to respond as a mother. Amir, observing the exchange, pointed at me and yelled, Mom, what are you thinking? Get away from that idiot. The only idiots here are you three. Apologize to Ellie, I demanded. Huh? Who's going to apologize? Neither Amir, Gianna, nor Stella showed any sign of remorse. Instead, they continued their harsh words towards Ellie, who clung to me, her expression hollow and lost. Was this what Ellie had been enduring all this time? Without a second thought, I scooped her up and declared, I will take care of Ellie. I can't leave her here. Leaving the trio stunned, I walked out of the room. After a moment, Amir followed, a smirk on his face. Thanks, Mom. I didn't know how to handle this mute. As I absorbed the shock of his words, Gianna appeared, holding a tattered little carry-on bag and a backpack. This is Ellie's stuff. Please take care of the rest, she said, thrusting the bags at me. Both Ellie and I were speechless, our eyes wide as we looked up at the indifferent faces of my son and daughter-in-law. It was evident they were relieved to see Ellie leave. Dumbfounded by their coldness, I left their house in silence. Once home, I gently removed Ellie's shoes at the entrance. As I did, she sniffled quietly. Looking into her tearful eyes, I realized the gravity of what she had faced and the new beginning that lay ahead for both of us. I watched as Ellie bit her lip, tears cascading down her cheeks. Gently, I wrapped my arms around her, patting her back soothingly. Ellie, it's been tough for you, hasn't it? I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you sooner. But everything is going to be okay now. Grandma is here for you. I will protect you. From that day forward, Ellie and I began our new life together. The emotional scars from her treatment by her parents had left her silent. Even a simple good morning seemed a monumental task for her. Her teacher expressed concerns about her inability to interact with peers or adults at school. Troubled, I arranged for her to see a specialist. At the hospital, the diagnosis was selective mutism. The doctor explained that the intense stress caused by her family had triggered severe anxiety, locking away her ability to speak. However, there was hope. With time and a supportive environment, Ellie could find her voice again. After the appointment, I bought her a charming notebook and a pen. Listen, Ellie, if there's anything you want to say, write it down here. You can draw or jot down words, and then try to say them out loud, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Ellie eagerly opened the notebook and began to write. After a few moments, she showed me the page. On it, she had written, "Thank you, Grandma," accompanied by a small sketch of me. She opened her mouth, attempting to speak the words she had written, but the sounds wouldn't come. Disappointed, she looked down. "Ellie, you're doing wonderfully," I encouraged her. "Keep it up, one step at a time." "Well done. Gold star for you." I patted her head gently as she looked up, her smile faint but genuine. She began to use the notebook and pen at school, which seemed to help her gain confidence. Over time, she slowly started to speak again. 3 years later, Ellie was able to converse normally. Grandma. Today at school." Ellie would burst through the door each afternoon, eager to tell me about her day. Seeing her vibrant and full of life reassured me that she had truly overcome her challenges. Then, one day, I attended a two-way conference at her school. As we entered the classroom, a kind-looking teacher greeted us warmly, clearly pleased to see how much Ellie had progressed. Ellie and I greeted her teacher with a cheerful hello, and took our seats. As we began discussing Ellie's behavior and academic performance at both school and home, she shyly squirmed in her seat, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. The teacher pulled out Ellie's report card to show us the remarkable progress she had made. "Take a look at this," the teacher said, pointing to a chart that displayed a steady upward trend in Ellie's grades, which had recently surged. "I'm sure it's because she's so dedicated to her studies." I nodded, patting Ellie on the head. "She's been engrossed in challenging books and complex problems almost every day," I explained. Since regaining her ability to speak, Ellie had thrown herself into her studies with enthusiasm. At home, she would delve into intricate subjects, and on test days, she would proudly present me with perfect scores. I had even framed all her perfect test papers, hanging them on the wall as a testament to her achievements. The teacher, impressed, suggested, in that case, how about taking an IQ test at the hospital? "IQ test?" I asked, needing a bit more information. The teacher elaborated, "Ellie might be gifted. That refers to children who are exceptionally intelligent, often as smart as, if not smarter than, many adults. An IQ test could help us understand how to better support her educational needs, especially if she has exceptional talents." Intrigued by the idea, I took Ellie for the suggested IQ test. As it turned out, Ellie was indeed gifted. The results amazed me. Ellie had an extraordinary ability that went beyond what I had observed at home. Curious about her school experience, I asked her, "How do you find the studies in elementary school? Is it fun?" She gave me a bored expression and replied, "Well, to be honest, it's too easy, and I find it boring. I want to study something more challenging, but when I tell the teachers, they seem confused." Hearing her words, I began to ponder the possibilities for her education. I wondered if there were advanced programs, perhaps at a middle school or high school level, that would better suit her capabilities, despite her still being in elementary school. I discussed this with her homeroom teacher, seeking advice on how we could provide Ellie with the stimulating educational environment she craved. The teacher then told me about when Ellie's teacher mentioned the grade skipping system in the US. It opened up new possibilities for her education. It reminded me of my late husband's brother, who was living in America. We hadn't been in contact since my husband's passing, but I thought he might be able to assist us. Reaching out to him, I was relieved when he expressed his willingness to support our move and life in the US. Excited, I shared the idea of studying abroad with Ellie. "I want to go if it's with Grandma, but I want to graduate from elementary school with my friends first," she responded thoughtfully. "All right, I understand. I'll also learn English by the time you graduate," I assured her. Ellie was relieved and smiled, content with our plan. She continued to enjoy her time in elementary school, making countless memories and graduating without any issues. We exchanged contact information with her friends to ensure she could stay in touch with them even from overseas, choosing not to mention our study abroad plans to Amir and Gianna was deliberate. I worried they might try to interfere, especially if they learned of Ellie's gifts and sought to exploit her abilities for their benefit. Once in the US, Ellie adapted quickly to her new environment and thrived academically by skipping grades. I supported her tirelessly and found joy in her newfound enthusiasm for learning. "Studying is more fun than before," she would tell me, and hearing this made all the sacrifices worthwhile. Ellie's talent truly was remarkable. Within a few years, she had enrolled at Harvard University, majoring in business. Before long, she founded her own company. "I want to repay my grandma," Ellie said with zeal. But to me, seeing her thrive was repayment enough. Ellie grew into an exceptional adult. Her achievements gained recognition on American news and spread worldwide, making her a well-known figure internationally. I sometimes wondered what Amir and Gianna thought of her success and hoped they regretted how they had treated her. 13 years after Ellie started her company, for work reasons, we returned to our home country. We settled into a new apartment. While adjusting to our new life, one day, the doorbell rang. Expecting it to be just another day, I headed to answer it, unaware of who might be waiting on the other side. When the doorbell rang, I opened the door without a second thought, only to be greeted by familiar faces that made me shudder, Amir and Gianna. "It's been a while, Mom. Have you been doing well?" Amir asked, an unexpected visitor on my doorstep. "Why are you here?" I questioned, puzzled and uneasy, had purposefully changed my contact information and moved far from our old house to avoid any old connections. How had they found me here? Ignoring my obvious shock, Gianna called out into the house, "Hey, Ellie. You're here, right? It's your mom. I've come to see you after such a long time. What do you want?" "Please don't approach my daughter," I said firmly, blocking their path. "Don't be cold, Mom. We are Ellie's parents, after all," Amir interjected, as if it justified their intrusion. "That's right, mother-in-law. Ellie is here, right? Please let us meet her," Gianna added, trying to edge past me. "Wait. Don't just barge in like that," I protested, but they brushed past me and entered the house. As I tried to intercept them, Ellie appeared from the living room, equally surprised by the sudden appearance of her parents. "What's wrong, Grandma?" she asked, confused by the commotion. I turned away, feeling a mix of emotions, while Amir and Gianna seemed thrilled to finally see Ellie again. "Oh, Ellie, I've missed you. You've grown so much," Gianna exclaimed, reaching out to embrace her. Ellie deftly sidestepped her mother's arms, maintaining her composure. "If you want to talk, I'll listen in the living room. I'll prepare some tea, so please wait on the sofa," she said coolly, heading to the kitchen to make tea. Amir and Gianna made themselves comfortable on the sofa, starting to reminisce as if they were reliving fond memories, but clearly one-sided. Concerned, I called out to Ellie, who gave me a reassuring wink, signaling that she had things under control. As I sat down opposite them, the conversation inevitably turned to the main issue at hand. The pub that Amir and Gianna had been running was now out of business due to poor management. Their older daughter, Stella, had also become unreachable since she started working, and they were clueless about her whereabouts. Amir and Gianna, now without jobs and living in poverty, were uncertain about how long their savings would last. In a desperate plea, they turned to Ellie. "Hey Ellie, would you consider supporting us? You left home at 6, but we raised you until then. You should pay your respects. Ellie, you must have felt lonely without seeing us all this time, right? But let's live together from now on. Let's create memories as a family, making up for the time we were apart," Gianna added, her voice thick with false sweetness. Witnessing my son and his wife pathetically pleading with Ellie was unbearable. It pained me deeply to see how my own son had turned out. Where had I gone wrong in raising him? I was lost in a whirl of guilt when Ellie's firm voice pulled me back to reality. "Idiots aren't my family. My only family is Grandma. Please see yourselves out," she declared, her smile cool and unlike any I had seen before. "But Ellie, wait, please." Amir and Gianna tried to argue, but Ellie was resolute. She firmly escorted them to the front door and locked it with a definitive click. From the window, I watched as my son and daughter-in-law walked away, their shoulders slumped in defeat. "Grandma, what is it, dear?" Ellie asked, her tone light. With a laugh, she revealed a plan she had been quietly making. "I've been planning to build a house for us to live in together, designed with your needs in mind for accessibility." "Thank you, Ellie," I said, overwhelmed by her thoughtfulness. She blushed and chuckled, slightly embarrassed by my gratitude. Several months later, we moved into our new home. Thanks to the accessible features Ellie had planned, I was living comfortably. Our shared memories were framed and displayed on the walls, and even the notebook and pen we bought when we first started living together were there, a constant reminder of our journey. Each time I saw these mementos, I was moved to tears. Today, I thought, I'll make Ellie's favorite dish for her. With that in mind, I headed to the kitchen to start cooking, grateful for the life we had built together.